Hello, and welcome to this roundup of historical romance books with the word heiress in the title. I'm Olivia, your favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screenshot, and you're watching Random Olive Reads. Romancing the Heiress by Darcy Burke is book 3 of the Lords in Love series. Leah is back in Merrywell for the annual matchmaking festival as a companion to a young debutante in search of a husband. Of course, Leah is still enamored with her childhood friend Phineas, who is considering marrying an heiress to save his secretly impoverished estate. Now, this one is a relatively quick read with somewhat tragic backstories for everyone involved. Leah had had an abusive childhood, so she was desperate to escape the village, while Phineas had a gambling father who left the estate in dire financial condition. Even the young debutante, who's not at all someone that we care about, has an overbearing and managing mother. However, the attraction between Leah and Phineas was a delight to read, and their shared history made for a stronger connection. The Heiress at Sea by Christy Caldwell is book 2 of the McCoys of Mayfair series. Cassia, the often invisible eldest daughter of an earl, is setting off on an adventure. She's dressed as a boy and sneaking onto her brother's best friend's ship so that she can see the world. It turns out she's on the wrong ship and ends up on Nathaniel's boat, which is aimed to intercept a French warship. Nathaniel is the second son of a duke, but recently became the heir after his brother fell off a horse. With his father's demands in mind, this mission is likely to be his last. With everyone trapped on a ship, there's plenty of drama to go around. Cassia is still pretending to be a boy, but she's so terribly naive and sensitive that the other men mock her work. When they discover she's actually a lady, there's most definitely potential for scandal. And she just can't stop talking and chattering and can't detect sarcasm at all. It makes for an annoying and infuriating conversation every time Nathaniel has to deal with her. But hey, it's a romance novel after all, and he starts to see her as someone brave, though naive, and also someone he wants to care for and protect. This was definitely a fun read, and I enjoyed seeing how all the conflict gets resolved. To Marry an Heiress by Lorraine Heath is book 2 of the Daughters of Fortune series. We're in England for this story with Georgina visiting her friend Lauren, the stepdaughter to the Earl of Ravenley, for the season, and her wealthy father is setting up a match for her with Devon, another Earl and cousin to Ravenley. Devon's impoverished estate needs the cash, and he agrees to Georgina's father's terms for the courtship and the appearance of a love match. Upon meeting Georgina at a ball, she sees through him immediately and insists that he not lie to her if they're going to get married. We see a quick wedding very early on in the book, followed by a surprise tragedy that sets off resentment and animosity between Devon and Georgina through the rest of the book. It was most interesting to see how Georgina could be sweet and accommodating, but also have strength in her convictions throughout the book. Devon thought he would be getting himself a demure and grateful wife, but instead finds a strong and courageous partner worth falling in love with. An Heiress for All Seasons by Sophie Jordan is book 1.5 of the Debutante File series. This one's a quick, relatively low angst novella. Violet is an American heiress being shown off around England by her title seeking mother. She has no intention of marrying anyone in England since she has a suitor back home, but goes along with her parents until they accept her other suitor. Will is an impoverished earl being set up by his mother to meet Violet, but has no interest in getting married until he actually does meet Violet and is intrigued by her. He spends most of his time trying to pursue her, even though she rebuffs him, and at some point they get stuck in a cabin together during a snowstorm, so this was easy peasy with fun flirty spice. The Heiress Swap by Madison Michaels is book 1 of the Dollar Princess series. Evie is the orphaned illegitimate cousin and companion to American heiress Amy, who convinces Evie to switch places for the season. Evie will go to balls and events, while Amy works as a secretary at her father's company. Stern, serious, skeptical Duke Alex believes that Evie, as Amy, has set her sights on his cousin's title and swears to prevent such deception and heartbreak from taking place. He has his own hangups after he caught his ex fiancee cheating on him the night before their wedding, and he's completely distrustful of women. But of course, Alex and Evie have a lot of common interests, and he slowly starts to realize that she's not trying to entrap a titled lord after all. Evie feels terrible for not being honest about her identity, especially as she starts to actually fall in love with Alex, knowing that he will hate her dishonesty. An Heiress to Remember by Maya Rodell is book 3 of the Gilded Age Girls Club series. Department store heiress Beatrice accepts a marriage proposal from a money seeking duke instead of running away with her secret love Wes, who is a mere assistant in her father's store. 16 years later, after a scandalous divorce from the Duke and a depressing existence in England, Beatrice is back in New York City. In the time that she was gone, her brother has nearly bankrupted her beloved family department store and is about to sell it off. And her broken-hearted suitor, Wes, has opened his own rival department store and somehow becomes the third wealthiest man in Manhattan. Beatrice takes over her family store and aims to turn things around with the support of her new empowering female friends, and also sets off a business rivalry with Wes. Except those feelings of attraction and admiration are still simmering in the background, just waiting to break through. The Heiress Hunt by Joanna Shoup is book 1 of the Fifth Avenue Rebel series. Harrison Archer is back in town after living in Paris for the past 3 years. His horrible family is broke, and he's intent on finalizing their financial ruin. While they want him to marry an heiress to pay off their debts, he only has eyes for his childhood friend, Maddie Webster, who broke his heart years ago by declaring that she only thinks of him like a brother. With the time apart, he's hoping that she'll change the way she sees him. Now, I'm a total sucker for the emotional gut wrench of rejection, even though Maddie has no idea that she was the cause of Harrison's departure. So now Maddie is trying to help Harrison find a bride, even though he just wanted to use the Newport house party as a way to get close to her again. And she's kind of almost engaged to a duke. It's messiness all around. Still, Maddie was incredibly stubborn in this book and totally oblivious to the fact that Harrison has loved her all of these years, even though everyone else in the world has seen it. The Heiress Gets a Duke by Harper St. George is book 1 of the Gilded Age Heiresses series. We have a semi tragic prologue for Camille, an American heiress being married off to a much older and impoverished duke in England against her wishes. August is the main character of this story and one of Camille's friends who sees how awful the whole situation is and thankful that her own parents haven't forced a marriage like that on her. Fast forward a few months later when August is visiting England with her parents and her sister, and her parents are doing exactly that. They are trying to push younger sister Violet into a match with a duke. But August really wants to thwart this. It doesn't matter much because Evan, the Duke, prefers the feisty August instead and tries to convince her to marry him. He needs the money because his father's antiquated ideals left the estate in a lot of debt, and the tenants on his lands are suffering. August refuses because she would rather stay working for her father's company and doesn't want to be a duchess. There's a lot of convincing involved here, even though these two are very clearly attracted to each other. The Devil and the Heiress by Harper St. George is book 2 of the Gilded Age Heiresses series. So, younger sister Violet thinks that she's safe from her parents' meddling because her sister got married to a duke, so she's caught off guard when her father has agreed to a match with a viscount. She plans to run away and is aided by an Earl Christian who has his own designs on her, and he kind of is scheming and hoping to force a marriage when they're caught together. Of course, during the trip, they actually talk to each other, get to know each other, so Christian's starting to feel guilty for his planned betrayal. Violet is also slowly opening up to the idea of marriage since she feels so connected to Christian. Now, in the background, Violet is working on writing a novel, and she's based her main character on Christian without him knowing it. And this book also has all of the calamities you would expect in a road trip novel, plus the added dread of uncovering Christian's deception. And finally, Ravishing the Heiress by Sherry Thomas is book 2 of the Fitzhugh trilogy series. Millie and Fitz have been married platonically for 8 years and soon to embark on their agreement to try to have children. Except that Fitz is distracted and excited by the fact that his first love is recently widowed and on her way back to England. And this book is told over two timelines, showing the progress through Millie and Fitz's 8-year marriage and also showing their present day friendship. Fitz had inherited an impoverished earldom, necessitating his marriage to a wealthy heiress, even though he had hopes of marrying somebody else. Millie has been in love with Fitz this whole time, but she has not given him any clues about her feelings and really tried to maintain a quiet dignity and strength while he's over there flailing and heartbroken over his lost love. Over the years, we get to see Fitz become a strong and steady presence in Millie's life and ever so slowly becoming her closest friend. This book was the slowest of slow burns and heartbreaking in all the best ways. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully you found a book or two to add to your TBR. Links to all of these books are in the description box. Like and subscribe to get updates, and you can follow me on Instagram at randomolive.